Hi, welcome to Mountain Jim Card Collectibles. So, there's a big letter going around on X. It's kind of going viral from the president of Upper Deck, Jason Mashara. I've seen some other YouTube gurus talk about this. But, what I take out of what he's saying is the fact that a lot of collectors like myself have been priced out of the hobby. I mean, I cannot argue against that. I have been priced out of the hobby. I have been priced out of a lot of things in my lifetime. And it's hard not to see how sports cards are kind of turning into a spectator sport for a lot of people, to be honest. Let's be honest here. I mean, when you get into sports cards, what are you looking at? Are you looking at your own sports cards a lot of the time, or are you online, watching videos on social media, looking at other people's sports cards that you likely cannot afford? Or, maybe you're going, online to try and purchase something, tops online, and you still can't afford that. And it's just sad that sports cards in general are going down this road. When I think of my lifetime, living in 80s, 90s, 2000s, when I grew up in the 80s, more or less, I would say that to be a comfortable American, you would have to come from a wealthy family. And if you don't come from a wealthy family, good luck, because we still have a $7.25 federal minimum wage from 2009. I mean, that just says everything about what the U.S. is about. It's all about these wealthy people, getting whatever they want, and everyone else, just getting the crumbs. And so, when I look at this letter, we can kind of dig into it. And, I know some people have attacked, this president of Upper Deck, Jason Mashara, because they think his company is not doing as well as others. Well, you can look at it that way. If you do, I'm guessing, you're probably someone who has a lot of money. Maybe you're from a wealthy family. That's never been me. In fact, things are going to be so bad. I have a brother that went up to Canada. He lives in Seattle. He just wanted to check out the food prices up there. And guess what? Food prices in Canada are more affordable than the U.S. I just keep kind of telling myself, how long can I hold on living in the United States before I have to get a passport, sell my house, and move to a different country? I'm likely not going to get the same opportunities as, say, my father, my grandfather, whatever. I mean, things are just getting to be too expensive in the USA. And I know a lot of people will argue against that, but it is what it is, And so if you've been priced out of sports cars, don't feel bad. I've been priced out of life. I mean, I'll likely have to move away. Anyway. So what he's saying, more or less, is that sports cards for the sports card hobbyists are not sustainable. And like it says here in the last part, let's go ahead and click this. Like he says, I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm saying we need to be honest about what's happening. This isn't sustainable growth driven by collectors who love the hobby. This is wealth concentration driving prices that most people can't participate in. And if that money suddenly moves elsewhere to bet on something else, we all will feel it. Well, yeah, that's because the value of all your cards is just going to drop like a rock, I mean, but let's be honest here. A lot of the stuff that I could afford anyway, I mean, it's never been like super valued, So He's talking about how speculation is built into sports cards. You can't argue against that. I mean, that's pretty much what you're buying in the sports cards these days. People who have been proven. I'll talk about Whitey Ford auto I have. Why aren't people jumping on that? He's a proven Hall of Famer. I mean, one of the greatest pitchers ever. No, it's all about speculation these days. It's all about looking at sports cards like it's the stock market or something. Which to me is a joke. So let's go through some of these comments. Here's one. I feel like Americans are getting priced out of everything nowadays, not just cards. We are getting less, but the costs have gone up and up for just about everything. Look at how streaming services are set up. We the people need to say enough is enough. My car insurance just jumped up 10% due to inflation. When does my paycheck get inflated? And I just like to bring up, that $7.25 2009 minimum wage. I mean, good luck. And that's why I'm talking about I may have to move, unfortunately. It's just when you're born middle income or, lower middle income, poor in the U.S., the government intends to keep you that way your entire life. I can't argue against that. I mean, I've lived it I'm 50 years old. I mean, I have been working job after job after job after job, and none of them want to pay. I mean, that's just life. True. Life's a carousel ride. You just need to know when to get on and off. The signal I'm monitoring is Fanatics. Once the IPO, the downturn will accelerate and be more evident. I honestly don't know if that's going to happen. And the reason why I don't know if that's going to happen is because of all the breaking companies. How many times have I said it? If you really want to enjoy cards, you have to start your own breaking company. Good luck with that. Nice to see that coming from someone in his position. And then we have someone here who obviously likes the way things are going. And the way things are going is basically, the wealthy get to enjoy the hobby and everyone else just gets, the scraps, the crumbs. Why do people believe this stuff? Has anyone been to the National or at any card shows recently? More popular than ever. Why do we repurpose tropes and unscientific statements? Prices, attendance, popularity, desire, and sales are powerful right now. Yeah, for the wealthy people. Let's see what some of his comments are, or replies are. I was at the National. It was mediocre. Moreover, it represents a small segment. And it really does, Tell me you don't understand macroeconomics without telling me. Yeah, I was at a card show. Sports is dead and Pokemon is king right now. No one touching sports, and it's just sitting on shelves. And I've noticed that at my local Walmart, to where a lot of the sports cards are not moving like they used to. During the pandemic, that stuff was flying off the shelves. Or just after the pandemic, I would say even up to last year that stuff was flying off the shelves. But man, we are just in a cycle of greed and take everything for yourself. 70% of my local card show is Pokemon Labubu dolls. and I can understand why. It's more affordable to get into Pokemon and even Labubu at this point in the sports cards. He's not talking about today. He's talking about tomorrow. You sound like a Morgan Stanley broker slinging MBS tranches in 2007. Yeah. Yeah, just before the 2008, recession. Yep. So, there's still some people out here, fighting the fight for the wealthy people, always got to get down the trenches for the 1%. Here's a comment. If Jason is trying to argue that this growth isn't organic, he's blurring the lines. Prices rise because of demand plus scarcity plus capital inflow. Whether it's organic, fans, collectors, or manipulated wealthy speculators, it's still the same mechanics. And it doesn't really feel like the same mechanics with all the breaking companies. I mean, you have to notice that, everything is geared for the breaking companies, and everyone else pretty much is left with the scraps. Facts. I'm super new to the hobby, and it's pretty obvious to me, and I don't know how much I can continue to participate already. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to get into sports cards, first step, you got to be born into a big, wealthy family. If you're not born into a big, wealthy family, get out, get out, get out. 2, you have to be wealthy. And maybe you're not from a wealthy family, but you have to hit a gold mine before you can get in this hobby. I mean, it's so true. And if you're not going to be that person, well, you're people like me. You know, you're just buying low end sports cards at the card shop, online, whatever. There will never be any value to those cards for the most part. You know, like I said, it's just the crumbs. Not sure what's his point at all. Why did he found his business for the fun of it? How does he make his money? Does he feel the same about stocks that it's been doing this for years? This is a cyclical pattern. During 2020, 2021, prices went crazy. This makes no sense to me. Well, it makes sense to me. And the reason why is, you know, prior to the pandemic, if you were just working at, say, McDonald's or Burger King, you know, or fast food like I was, you know, I'd go buy sports cards on my part-time fast food paycheck, you know. It really wouldn't hurt my paycheck at all. I could still pay my bills, this and that. If I took that paycheck to the sports card shop or I went online with it right now, it would just completely more or less obliterate it. Unless I just bought, you know, the cheap stuff. But if I wanted to buy the stuff like I was buying, you know, like pre-pandemic, you know, like a hobby box or, you know, even some of these blasters, yeah, it really just destroys you. So when he criticizes speculation, it does come across as hypocritical. His company benefits when people speculate. When they slap cards, chase rookies, buy cases. As speculation dies, his revenue dries up too. Well, you know, but here's the thing about the president of Upper Deck. You know, he had admitted something that nobody else wants to admit. He said the quiet part out loud. You know, he really did. And apparently, if you're higher up in a sports card company or a card company, you're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud. And what's that? Well, the reality is they're price gouging the hell out of you, you know, so that they can, you know, get really rich. All I agree with is that he's saying the growth is too rapid. Organic versus manipulated growth. It's angering the owner of big company talking like this, especially last paragraph, his last 2 sentences. He'll go out of business. All market have their cycles, period. Well, at least, you know, Upper Deck is doing what they're doing, but, you know, the Fanatics monopoly, you know, very well could continue to drive a lot of these other sports card companies out of business. I mean, just being honest here, you know, I mean, these sports leagues aren't being fair to a lot of other companies. They're just not, you know. I mean, they just ponied up with the big, you know, billionaire in the room, Michael Rubin, you know. I mean, when I look at Michael Rubin's white parties, you know, I just feel like you should be looking at all the sports leagues all dressed up, you know, in white clothing, you know, as Michael Rubin goes and touches them and does all the weird stuff that he just does, you know, at the white parties. They raised prices for boxes that most kids or small collectors could afford by 50% while shrinking box size and printing more cards with similar quality control. The collector's absolutely getting reamed right now. It's all marketed for breakers or deep pockets. Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, it's... When you start looking at different hobbies, you know, I mean... I've lived a lifetime of getting priced out of hobbies, you know. Got priced out of fishing. You know, I love to go fishing. Well, you know, the state keeps raising their prices, you know, petroleum, you know, I mean, gas, everything else. I mean, I got priced out of fishing. I used to go hunting. Well, I've lost teeth, you know, so I can't afford to buy the implants, so I can't eat a lot of meat anymore, so you won't see me hunting. Why? Well, because implants cost, you know, $3,000 to $4,000 per tooth. So I can't eat a lot of meat. I sure as hell couldn't eat any venison. So I can't go really hunting anymore. I can't go fishing. I can't really buy sports cards anymore like I used to, you know, prior to the pandemic. Streaming. Well, streaming's that they're always raising their rates too. How long before I get priced out of streaming? That seems to be the American way. And I've said it before. I mean, I've lived a full life in the United States, but I wasn't born into a big wealthy family. And, as everything keeps dropping, how long before I have to get a passport, sell my home, and move likely north into Canada that has more affordable food right now. Hopefully Donald Trump won't be coming at me for saying that, but let's be honest here. I mean, when you're priced out, you're priced out. It is what it is. I could be maybe doing my show up in Canada. Maybe I'll be happier up there. Maybe sports card prices are lower up there. I just don't know. Maybe it's all OPG and, it's like more affordable than Tops Fanatics in the U.S. I don't know. I mean, my brother was looking at food. He wasn't looking at sports cards when he drove up there. I should have told him sports cards and food. It's not just that. I mean, if you look at healthcare, I mean, healthcare is just going to be so atrociously expensive. I don't even see the point of it anymore. It's just like I look at a big hospital. I can't ever use it. If you don't have insurance, you can't go to a big hospital, Socialized medicine in Canada, well, from what I've heard, they cover all your hospital bills. You just have to pay for, your pharmaceuticals up there, which, that's a lot more affordable than, paying thousands of dollars every month for, health insurance. At the end of the day, when you speculate on something that does not have a supply cap, you are taking a very risky bet. Few people understand the vast numbers of trading card production that is happening and has been. And that's another thing, like when I was just at my last sports card show, that was one of the biggest complaints is modern cards are overprinted beyond junk wax. And they're saying that, I mean, it's not just me saying this. This is coming from other people. We always say junk wax. Well, here's someone saying $1,000 boxes and junk wax 2.0. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that we are living in junk wax era 2.0. And it's not just junk wax era 2.0. It's a bunch of unlicensed products because of the monopoly. It's a bunch of high-priced products because of speculation. You have, of course, the big corporate ideology that, it's only meant for wealthy people, like, so much of the USA is, it is what it is. 1,000%. Most collectors are waiting for the sky to fall so they can have fun again. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I mean, hopefully when the sky falls, and if I'm living in a different country because I've been priced out of the U.S., which, I hate to admit, I was just at the grocery store today. I mean, I never thought I'd see prices like that. Even at Walmart, 100% agree. People have been priced out of the hobby since 2020, so Toss was reasonably priced until they weren't. Well, the early years of the pandemic, people weren't priced out as bad, But man, these last few years, these breaking companies, just taking over so much of this hobby. And Michael Rubin more or less letting them. And, you have to point your fingers at, well, who's to blame overall, You can't blame this guy for, stating the facts. I mean, yeah, maybe you want to attack him because he's not Michael Rubin, and maybe Upper Deck isn't making as much as Tops, but, at least in the era of collecting that I lived in, the Upper Deck products that I always could buy brand new, they were always affordable, and I'd get some pretty awesome cards out of them. So Jason Mashara basically said the quiet part out loud, and a lot of people didn't want him to do it. And I'm not sure why, other than if you're someone who's making a lot of money off sports cards, maybe you don't want the stuff to get out into the, blue sky. But it is what it is, We are living in a very tough time. I always blame politicians. I know a lot of people might come at me for saying that, but I just don't like any politician from any party. I mean, I've never really got much help from politicians. Let's face it. Politicians are all about their careers and helping out big corporations with a lot of money and, big wealthy people and, big wealthy families. Unfortunately, the sports card world is the same way. And so that's why I think it's hilarious that, maybe some sports card people are mad about this statement. But, when you say the quiet part out loud, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And there's a lot of posts on this thing on X. I recommend, you can go to X yourself and just type in Jason Mashera, and you can see all of the comments. I just went over one of them, with all these postings. You can begin these comments all day about people talking about this, and it's pretty much the same type of stuff that I just went over, How do you think about, sports cards, sports card corporations, the sports leagues helping, Fanatics, Topps create this monopoly that, has pushed so many people out of the hobby, or really just pushed you down on the totem pole to where you're like at the bottom of the totem pole now. You're just getting crumbs, of collectibles. You're not getting anything premium, to the point to where you're just kind of going, this is kind of pointless, move on to a new hobby, I have another channel, and what I like about my other channel is, well, that's stuff that I'm just interested in, I don't have to go purchase, the stuff. I can just talk about it. And unfortunately, I think we're kind of living in this world where, maybe that is the new hobby. The old hobbies of collecting stuff, have been burned down by the greedy corporations and our greedy government, and wealthy families. To the point, well, what's the new hobby? Well, I guess I can talk. And that's about it now, isn't it? I mean, I have been priced out of literally every hobby imaginable. Anyway, if you feel differently or feel the same, leave some comments. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're a viewer, thanks for watching. Maybe you could subscribe. Who knows? Maybe I could get monetized, but I doubt that. I mean, you're talking to a guy that's probably going to have to move out of this country, man. I mean, anyway, thanks, my viewers. You guys are the reason why I keep doing this as a non-monetized channel. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.